Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic all the way from the Gold Coast here in Australia. It's a beautiful, crisp winter's morning here, so we'll keep the show moving along because I don't want to get too cold, and I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic week wherever you are around the globe of ours. Now, this week we've got the Simply Tarot card of the week is the Hanged Man. Now, this is one I don't think we've featured on the show very often. It's the card of getting stronger in oneself. After a lot of deliberating and delaying, you're finally on the right track. And one of the things that my students always ask is, isn't the card upside down? No, he is meant to be hanging upside down. He's not meant to be upright, because this is where you're starting to get stronger in yourself, because you're starting to look at things maybe through a different set of eyes, or finally just coming to the truth of the matter of the situations or the issues that you've been dealing with after you've deliberated and you've delayed on it and you've looked at it from every possible angle. You finally know that you're on the right track and you can proceed forward with great gusto. So this week we're sort of moving into a very big astrological event, and I mean, for those of you that watch the show regularly, you know I quite often talk about the moon. But this week on August 30, I was nearly going to say November 30. I'm trying to wish the year away, and I'm not, but we won't do that just yet. So on August 30 this year, what is known as a dark moon or the black moon. Now, for those of you that don't have a clue what I'm talking about, what this means is that we've had 2 new moons in one calendar month, and that's why it's called a black moon or a dark moon. Some people are talking about it as being a super moon. Look, I don't get too excited when they sort of write up about it's a super moon, or, you know, it's sort of like the moon is the moon. The emotions are the emotions, and the emotions are what governs us as human beings. And each month we have one full moon and one new moon, and sometimes we have a second full moon, which is the blue moon, or sometimes we have a second new moon, which is the black moon or the dark moon, which is what's happening this month. So the new moon or the black moon this month is in Virgo. So it's interesting because it's going to ask each and every one of us to delve into our emotions, and it's going to ask us to put our Virgo hat on, which means that we've got to be logical, practical. We've got to pull everything apart. It's like we've got to analyze every single solitary thing that's going on in our lives. Now, for some of us, it's going to be a very confronting new moon, because there's going to be so much other activity in Virgo. We've actually got a plethora of planets sitting in Virgo. So I just want to quickly run through those that are joining the new moon on the 30th of this month. And bearing in mind, all these planets are holding hands. It's like they're all in a row. So we kick it off with Mercury. The planet of communication is holding hands with the new moon. Then the new moon is holding hands with the sun, which is where our ego and drive comes from. The sun is holding hands with Mars, the planet of action and you know, making us get up out of bed and sort of want to be motivated. And he's holding hands with the planet Venus, the planet of love and communication. So to round all that off, we're going to have some very tricky times with communication that are going to be quite emotional, and everybody's going to be jockeying for position, trying to get their voice across or get their opinion across, because it's the only one that matters. Now, this could spark some very fiery debates, particularly about things that we're very passionate about or things that we feel ownership about. Now, at the same time, it's going to be sort of like you're going to be sort of dissecting this, putting it under the microscope and sort of asking yourself, how does this affect you? How does this really sort of come into my little world? And it's like, I don't really want to know about yours. I'm only bothered about mine. So that in the midst of all this, we have the new moon energy, which is asking us to look at things in a fresh new perspective, release things that are no longer serving us, and start to look for innovative new ways of coming to terms with or making changes in our lives, particularly on an emotional level. So I'm just warning you again, it's not going to be the easiest of new moons this month, but it is going to be a time where I think we can get to the bottom of a lot of issues. And a bit like the Hanged Man, after all the deliberating and delaying that's been going on in our lives, we finally see the truth. We finally see the pathway forward. And I believe from that we can have some major, major breakthroughs. It's just a pity the politicians around the world don't get on board with what's happening with the new moon. Maybe they will. We'll give them a benefit of the doubt. So anyway, the famous person I want to focus on this week is one of the world's leading actors, and I don't know that this man really needs any introduction, but I'm going to talk about Tommy Lee Jones. And Tommy Lee Jones is a Libra, and that really surprised me because he plays such gutsy roles, and he's always sort of so forthright and sort of takes you along for the journey as well in whatever role that he's played. And I know I've watched many, many movies with him in it, and each time it's like you sort of just get captivated and get taken along for the journey. So I suppose that's where his Librian energy comes in, that he enables you to sort of really sort of get involved with the character that he's playing and see it from both sides of the equation, the good and the bad, you know. And I'm seeing him in some, you know, very not so nice roles where he's been the baddie, and I've seen him in other roles where he's sort of, you know, really seeking the truth and sort of bringing the good things in life to justice. So there's many, many roles that this man's played, but I think one of my favourite roles would be the mini-series that was out many, many moons ago now called Lonesome Dove. And for those of you that don't know it, it's one of those classics that I think you really need to go back and look at. And it is based on a Western, and it's a really long series. And I mean, there's a number of DVDs in the series, but Lonesome Dove was the first one I saw, and it really captivated me that I had to go back and watch it a couple of times because there was just so many layers to the story. So for those of you that have seen Lonesome Dove, you'll know he played the role of Woodrow F. Call, Captain, and he was one of the Texas Rangers. So anyway, we're going to take our first caller, which is Heather in Port Hope, Ontario, Canada. Are you there, Heather?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, Heather. How
Hi.
can I help you today, sweet? Do you have a question I can work with?
Yeah, more looking about where my path is going.
Okay. All right. That's a very general sort of question, Heather, but we'll do what we can with it, because sometimes when we ask a general sort of question like that, the powers that be on the other side get a little bit frustrated because they sort of think we could be a little bit more decisive. But the first thing that they're showing me is that this year, 2019 for you, has been about endings, change and transformation, but it's also been about delving inside yourself and understanding your triggers, understanding the things that make you the person that you are and what you've been evolving to become. But they're also now asking me to sort of ask you to put your hand up and sort of say, this is what I want. It's like you've really now got to become proactive in as much as this is what I want out of the next stage of my life. I want more. I deserve more. I've worked hard for more. So has there been some sort of study or some learning that's been going on this year? And it may not necessarily have been work-related. It could have been more about self-improvement or something that you've been interested in, that this has sort of helped shape the direction that you're now going in. Has there been something new that you've been working with?
There has. My husband passed away a couple of years ago now, and I've started dating again. So that would be the change. I've had a boyfriend for the past year.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that your husband passed away, but they were showing it to me more on the level of something that you were doing as if you were encompassing or learning something new. So did you take up a new hobby, or did you start looking into spirituality or learning different things?
I did start looking into spirituality as well, yes.
Yeah, because they're showing me that they want you to keep on that sort of path. It's sort of, you know, I appreciate it's been a very big learning curve for you since you lost your husband, and then sort of reorganising your life and having to go dating again, I think is quite daunting when you get past a certain age, isn't it? That, you know, how the world has changed in that direction. But I also sort of feel that this is opening you up to a lot more new experiences. So would it be fair to say, Heather, that somewhere in this next 12 months we might be looking to make some fairly serious decisions about what the next step is in the relationship?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, because I feel that's something that the both of you have sort of thought about, but the energy that your new man is giving me, your boyfriend is giving me, is he doesn't want to rush you. He wants to make sure that you're ready for this next step. You know, he was ready a long time ago, but he's very aware of that you've been through such a change in your life that you have to be the one that is not so much leading the charge, but sort of showing him that you're ready for something more than what you have.
Yeah, that makes sense. He says that sometimes. So
yeah, I just sort of feel by about March next year, I think we're sitting down and having a conversation about what next. You know what I mean? We get through the holiday season and we enjoy that in a sort of a fun sort of way, and then sort of, you know, we start the new year and then it's sort of down to business.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and it is good because I feel the two of you are very, very connected, and that's not taking away from what you shared with your late husband. I mean, that chapter of your life will always remain very important and very significant. But, you know, we do have the capability of loving again, and loving again in a different, deeper sort of way. You know, each relationship or each serious relationship like this has its own merit. You know, it doesn't mean you loved one person more than the other. It's just they're different.
Right.
Yeah, and don't let anybody tell you that you don't have the right to happiness again. You do.
No, that's right, you do.
Yes, and I know your late husband would want that for you. He would want you to be moving on and being happy, and, you know, that's what life's meant to be.
Okay.
Yeah, so don't look at it as, you know, is there a certain timetable that we have to abide by before we can sort of reach out and take the next branch of happiness? There is no timetable. You know, that's just people's perceptions of how long it should be. They're not the one walking in your shoes. And as long as you're the one that's comfortable with the pace that your life's going at, you're the only person you have to answer to.
Yeah, that answers a question of mine as well. So
yeah, and it's always hard, Heather, because people have this perception of when you've become widowed that all of a sudden you've lost half your brain. You didn't lose half your brain. You lost your husband. And it's something that it doesn't matter, I think, whatever age we might experience that, and I have been through it, so I can speak firsthand at it. And it's like people don't sort of understand that there's so many processes that you have to go through to regain who you are after such a loss like that. But it doesn't mean that you haven't got a brain, that you can't make decisions, that you can't make decisive decisions about where and when and how to do something, that each one of us is different. And if there's one thing I learnt through that process was that everybody is individual. Everybody grieves and handles a loss in their own way, and there is no right or wrong way. And I can remember meeting a lady at a bus stop one day, and she must have been fairly intuitive, and she just held my hand and she said to me, "One day you'll wake up and the sky will be blue." And I thought about that and I thought, oh, that's a nice way of putting things. And then she sort of hopped on her bus and I waited for mine. And it was the most comforting words that somebody said to me at that time, because it made sense that, you know, when you first go through the early stages of grief, everything looks very grey and bleak and you don't know what to do and you've got a lot of decisions to make and a lot of choices and changes, and, you know, there seems to be so much at the very beginning that needs to be done, and then everybody disappears and then you're left to pick up the pieces and reorganise your life. And there is some grey days, but one day you do wake up and the sky is blue and you're ready to take the reins to life again. And I feel that's what she was talking about. And those words rung true for me for many, many years. And every time I might have had a day where I was feeling a little bit sorry for myself at my loss, I would remember her words. And that would give me great comfort. And, you know, as I've taught people over the years, there is no bus timetable for grief. You'll know when you're ready to take your step out into the world and you're ready to have a new relationship or move or whatever the case may be. And it's got to be entirely your choice, Heather. And I know that you're well and truly on your path and you know exactly where you're going and what you want to achieve. And don't let anybody tell you that you should. Yeah, and it's your turn now, Heather.
Okay.
So I can only wish you well, because I know you've got a lot of amazing things to look forward to. So just grab everything with both hands and don't look backwards.
Okay. Can I ask one quick question?
Yeah, sure.
Your opinion on, let's say, your opinion on signs from the afterlife type thing.
Look, I believe that, there is an afterlife. I've always believed that. And I've always believed that our spirit guides or our guardian angels are people that we were emotionally connected to. That's always been my personal belief. And people sort of often ask me, well, how come not everybody decides to come back and give us a message? And my argument for that is that some people, whether they've had a belief in spirituality or the afterlife here on earth, doesn't necessarily constitute how they see it from the other side. Some people find it easier to connect with us and others don't. And it doesn't mean one's stronger than the other. I think what you need to do if you're looking for a sign or sort of a message from your late husband is look at something that means something to you. You might walk out and the photos are crooked on the mantle and he knows that that would annoy you. So that's his way of connecting or getting a message to you. Sometimes it comes through a song. Sometimes it'll be something that you see on the TV. It can be a street sign. There's many different methods of them being able to connect with us. But please be assured, nobody's ever come through and told me they don't like it there or they're not comfortable there or they're still in pain or whatever the case may be. I've never had anybody tell me that. They always are with us, regardless of whether we know it or not. They never really leave us. So, if they felt we were really on the wrong path, I think they'd get a message through to us in some sort of way that, hey, maybe you better think about things a little bit differently. And sometimes when you just get a very strong feeling, that's them putting that message in your head, if this is the way that you
feelings I quite often experienced, so.
Yeah, and that'll be your husband giving you a message. He mightn't be able to come down and have a cup of coffee with you at the kitchen table, but that's as good as, And I always suggest to people, if you've got a question for someone that's passed over, ask them out aloud before you go to sleep and tell them you want the answer in your mind first thing in the morning. So then whatever your first thought is first thing in the morning, that's the answer direct from them. And if you look at it along those ways, you'll find then that increases it's like exercise. The more we do, the better we become at it. So the more we try and give them a way to connect with us at a time that is appropriate for us, the stronger the connection becomes. So, your husband's with you all the time and he just wants to see you smile and be happy again.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate that.
You're very, very welcome, Heather. We're going to have to leave it there because we're going to go to Vass in London, in England. Are you there, Vass?
Hello?
Hello, Vass. How can I help you, sweetie?
Hi. I just basically I need some direction or clarity with regards to where I'm at the moment in terms of my life purpose and what's going on in terms of the fears that I'm going through.
Okay. All right, Vass. The first thing that they're showing me is that I don't know that the picture of your life is completely formulated at the moment. It's like there's many possibilities and there's many different choices or directions that you could go. Now, I'm not saying that to be flippant. I'm saying to you that there's lots of things that have come in and out of your mind this year, but none of them have really been something that I want to grab hold of, that I want to sort of hang on to and say, this is what I want. So until we get that, I want to sort of say to you, just take it very gently. Don't be in too much of a hurry to try and make long-term decisions or choices yet until that something really grabs you. When it really grabs you and you want to hang on to it and you don't want to let go of it, then that's the way that you need to go moving forward. It's also been a year of where I feel we've got into the depths of your mind and really cleared out a lot of old things, like old memories that you've hung on to, old lessons, all those sort of things have come to the surface. We've looked at them, we've processed them, we've put them where we need them to go, and then we've let go of them, and that's a good thing. This is opening you up for the changes that are coming up, and I know this hasn't been the easiest of years because you sort of thought at the beginning of this year things were going to unfold and things were going to be amazing and it was going to be a really positive, upbeat year, and it's like, well, here we are nearly at the end of August, and what have I done? Well, you can't sort of turn around and say, this is what I've achieved on a level that we can count it. But let me assure you, you've done an awful lot of work on yourself, which is going to hold you in good stead for the changes that are coming about. I do feel that it's almost like you've been reborn. You've become a completely different person to what you were at the beginning of the year. And that's a good thing, because I feel that there was many things there that you were holding on to that were weighing you down, that weren't really productive in your life, and they were causing things to be sort of out of balance. So as we sort of move forward from about the 1st of September this year, I think you'll start to sort of feel some momentum, some energy starting to build, and you'll start to feel a lot more positive. And it's like, wow, I'm starting to get flashes of things that I might be interested in, or a direction that I could be going. So was there a relationship that broke up this year, Vass?
The relationship broke up in 2014, but it's kind of like, yeah.
But was it just the fact that you finally came to terms with everything that was connected to that you sort of finally put all the pieces into the puzzle and were able to release it?
I've done a lot of forgiveness work.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
but that's the same thing as being able to put all the pieces into the puzzle and letting go of it, being able to sort of say, well, that's it, it's now complete. I feel that was really important, because that, you not being able to forgive until this year was holding you back as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. There will be new love. I don't feel it's too far away now before we attract somebody new into your life. I've got a man here with brown hair and green to hazily coloured eyes who's got a bit of a cheeky looking smile. And please don't be offended when I say this, but it's like I want to get him and take him to the dentist because his teeth are crooked. Every time he smiles, he's got this most beautiful smile, but he's got 2 teeth that are sort of crooked, and it's like I want to get the pliers and straighten them up. But, they're not rotten or anything like that. They're just crooked, and it's sort of like, it sort of ruins this beautiful smile he's got. But a really, really lovely man. I feel he's been on his own for some time. I think he went through a very emotional time too that he needed to sort of work through and process and all those sort of things. So life is certainly going to be on more of an upward swing for you as we head, from the 1st of September onwards towards the end of the year. Halfway through next year, I feel, Vass, that there will be a big decision about whether you're going to stay in the current job that you're in, or is it time to start looking for something new. I feel it'll be time to start looking for something new, but certainly rewards are starting to come back to you this year. And it's like all the hard work, all the effort that you've done is now finally starting to pay off. It's interesting because that forgiveness work that you did on yourself, I don't think that was only just to do with the relationship. I feel that went way back over a number of issues. And I'd almost even say a number of lifetimes where you came into this lifetime where you did a number of the same lessons over and over and over again. And it's like you forgave yourself for everything that you'd never completed before, or things that you'd always sort of buried away. You were never good at confronting your emotions until this year, and that's a good thing. That's a huge step forward, to be able to confront your emotions, deal with them, own what part you were responsible for, but also release the parts that you weren't responsible for, that you couldn't have changed even if you wanted to. As much as you tried to, things didn't change. So I think you deserve a packet of gold stars, Vass, for the work that you've done on yourself this year. And I can only wish you well with everything that's coming your way, because you've got a really good life coming towards you now, and that's very exciting.
Thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome. So it's an interesting year this year astrologically. There's lots of people like Vass that have been doing a lot of work on themselves and sort of wondering what it's all been about. Where am I heading? Why am I going this way? And I think it's been a time where people are sort of certainly becoming more enlightened. And as we become more enlightened, I think we ask the tougher questions of ourselves, like, where am I going? What am I responsible for? Why did I end that relationship? Why did I get attracted to that person? Why did I take that sort of job? And these are very healthy questions that I think we all need to ask ourselves, fairly regularly, to make sure that we know exactly where our lives are going. so that we are still the master of our own universe, that we are the one driving the car, even though I do believe destiny and fate and free will and all those sort of things come into it. I still believe to a certain point our lives are mapped out for us. Where our free will comes in is when we get to the intersection, do we turn right or do we turn left? So it's an interesting sort of concept. But, you know, having spoken with Heather earlier in the show, and there's many people out there that I know that have lost people, you know, through death and, you know, are struggling with the loss and sort of not sure what's right or wrong. Can I make a suggestion to those people? The best book that I ever read on grief was by Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, called On Death and Dying. Most good libraries have it. It's a very inexpensive book. And it's one of the books that I think that you can keep going back to and finding answers. Even if you just randomly open a page up, you'll find there's a message there for you. I found that book a great comfort. I still believe it's a relevant book today, and everything that Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote on the subject, and she was an expert on, you know, changes in life. She wrote many, many books, but I believe that was one of her better books. And one of my favourites, and the last one I read of hers was The Wheel of Life, or something to that effect, where she wrote a book about her life and how she became such a grief expert. So I want to sort of leave you with that this week, because there may be somebody out there that needs a little bit of a helping hand, that's going through a tough time after a loss or a death in the family. So until next week, enjoy the black moon and make sure that you are kind to each other, and make sure you listen to each other. It's a time when we can have some major breakthroughs, particularly with communication, and really sorting out who we are and where we're going as individuals in this amazing planet of ours. So until next week, bye for now, and be kind to each other.